Did your narcissist love you? Is that a question that runs through your mind that you're unsure about? Like, did they actually love me? Is it possible? Can a narcissist actually love at all? Are they even capable of love? Well, we're going to dive into that some today because a big debate is how do they show it, how they demonstrate it, what is actually going on. So I'm going to touch on three main things about narcissists and love and how that actually relates. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. And we do it under the program of Raw Motivations. You can find us under all social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and also under Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, all of that under Raw Motivations. So check us out there if you're in the car or if you want to watch the video. Either way, you can grab it on either side. If you want to talk to me sometime one-on-one, would love to interact with you, just go to rawmotivations.com, click on one-on-ones, try to work with people to help them break out of the trauma bond, to rewire their mindset, change your story, to change your life, to actually be able to get free and break away from those triggers that are still controlling you and learn to set boundaries so that you don't go back and be with a narcissist and you don't get with a narcissist down the road. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you guys need more people, as you see in the comments of people that comment and respond and things, if you need more people to help you grow, then I'd like to invite you over to the NARC app. You can look it up under narcapp.com, narcapp.com. It stands for Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community. Community of like-minded people to help you heal, grow, and change. So engage with courses, tracking no contact, journaling, a bunch of other stuff that's built in there to help you focus on moving forward. You can tune in on the weekly lives and the challenges that we give in there, and also the monthly coaching where we bring in other experts from in different fields to help you along that journey and to help you move forward. So would love to have you engaged with that. We're going to jump in today with narcissists. Are they actually capable of love at all? Well, typically you hear on most social media out there, narcissists aren't capable at all. You know, it's impossible. They don't love. That's like the typical response of they are incapable of love. So much so that I was even interacting with someone the other day, and I heard this person say that even so far that they said all men are incapable of love. Like, it's impossible for men to be capable of love. Well, we're going to dive into, three main points going into narcissists and love. And I want to be able to kind of debunk some of them and also give you a couple different perspectives that you might not have expected. Okay? First one is narcissists only love as good as they can. Have you heard this before? Sometimes people will be like, well, they showed love, but in their way. Or they showed love, it was the best that they could do. It was the best that they can offer. The thing with this, I really don't like, because it oftentimes it implies and it removes the aspect of fault and places them in the aspect of like poor victim. Like they did the best they could. When in reality, they didn't. When in reality, how they were showing up, even if they thought this is love, they weren't open to actually changing what they were going to do and changing how they hurt you and how they manipulated to exemplify and show love on a day-to-day basis. Someone who does have love and is willing to love needs to also put in forth the effort to engage with that person, to help with that person, and to start growing themselves. You see, growing up, I had the definition, the idea of love as being control, complete control. Having control of another person, of their time, their money, their energy, like all these different things, that was control. Like, I'm going to be loving by knowing where you are at all times. I'm going to be loving by doing this. I'm going to be loving by being in control of this aspect. And the thing was, it was never loving, and it was never good enough love, like a good way to love, because it was still abusive. It was still controlling and putting another person down. Personally, I don't like this idea of narcissists only love as good as that they can or what they're able to. And I don't like people that end up like resigning to that idea and to that thought process, because it really leaves you kind of backed into a corner and there's really nowhere to go with it. Well, they just love as good as they can, so I guess I'll just take whatever I can and move on. Okay? The second one that I wanted to bring up is narcissists don't love at all. Pretty popular, right? So we're going to dive into that one. And the last one about narcissists being capable of love, stick around for that, okay? Narcissists don't love at all. Everything is about control and keeping the mask alive. Because when it comes down to it, the narcissist is more infatuated with keeping the mask there, of making sure that they're in control of what other people see and think of them, and being in control of another person to be able to manipulate, to lord it over them, to feel special, to feel like the number one person in the universe, whatever it might be, to make sure that they're in control. You see, when we talk about narcissists and love, a lot of times people don't realize and don't bring up that narcissists don't really love themselves. Oftentimes people are like, oh, they just are in love with themselves. Like, no, they're in love with a mask. If they really had proper self-love, then they'd start working on themselves. Then they'd actually go to therapy and start changing and start growing. But instead, that infatuation of the image is more important than actually changing and actually being honest. Oftentimes a narcissist is hating themselves, is hating the things that they've done, the guilt and the shame that boil up, that they have to be able to put it on someone else. So as a result, they project that hate oftentimes onto you. You see, when we talk about narcissism, we're talking about shame and guilt avoidance. Like, let's move away from that as fast and as quick as possible. And as a result, the end result is I don't care if you get hurt. I don't care if you end up like getting damaged in that relationship, as long as I avoid shame and guilt. That's the whole idea. Like, let me avoid it at all costs, even if it hurts someone else. Now, what about like early stages of, like, you say they don't love at all. What about the early stages of like when they're in love or when they're love bombing, all those things? There's an aspect that narcissists will adhere to someone and kind of like cling to someone for a short period of time, being like, I'm in love with this person because they're so perfect. They're so wonderful. They're exactly who I wanted to be, exactly who I created them to be, all those things. Until you stop being perfect in their eyes. Until you get to the place where they realize, wait a second, this person's human. This person actually has boundaries. This person, responded. They said no to me. Like all those type of things, all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. It's not really an aspect of love at that time being a choice. It's just more of a feeling, and then, well, that's gone. You're awful. Now you went from being all good, now you're all bad. Now it's trying to find someone else, okay? So when we're talking about that, narcissists don't engage with love at all because they don't. A lot of it is about control. Now, what about the aspect of narcissists being capable of love? I know I alluded to this earlier, and a lot of people don't either agree or, on the fence, okay? I think narcissists are capable of love, but it is very, very unlikely, okay? Because for a narcissist to be capable of love and actually start to demonstrate loving behaviors and loving ability, they'd first off have to get self-aware. They first have to know what's actually going on. That way they can take the self-love of their image and turn it to be self-love on themselves to work through the things that they've been doing wrong and the things that they've been beating themselves up, they've been shoving on other people, they've been raging out, cheating, lying, all those things, to be honest with that and start working forward. You see, just because a narcissist is self-aware doesn't mean that they want to change their behaviors. There's a lot of narcissists out there that are self-aware and don't care. They don't care if they're hurting someone else. They don't care if they're going through life not loving, not caring about other people. All they care about is still themselves. For a narcissist to actually get to the place where they could even approach on the idea of giving love, they'd have to go through ego death. They'd have to actually get to the place where they're going to take themselves out of the way and be like, hey, I'll learn to actually elevate someone else above my own needs. To actually take my ego and squash it and say, hey, my ego is not the most important thing in the room. My ego is not the most important thing in the world. I'm not the center of the universe. There's other people around me that matter. And a lot of times a narcissist is not willing to do that at all. They won't remove themselves out of the way, set to the side, and put someone else's needs, focus, and care above their own. Whenever I was having to go through the aspect of like thinking like, do I love my wife? How does this actually work? What is love actually? Like people would ask me early on my platform, they'd be like, well, what is love to you? Or like, how do you love? And all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, I don't know. Like I didn't have a good definition for it then because I wasn't sure. In my mind, love was just control. Like I had to be in charge. I had to win this argument. I had to do this. I had to provide, like whatever it was. Love wasn't about the other person. It was still about me. And so getting to the place of reframing my view of love and starting to elevate respect, honor, and truth, not of myself, but of someone else. And that's the aspect of taking my ego and putting it to the side and saying, hey, how can I help love, support, and care for someone else and view their needs more than mine and not put my needs above theirs? Because a lot of times the narcissist is only focused on it's all about me, it's all about me, it's all about me, and nothing else. For me, that meant coming into the relationship and admitting I'm actually wrong, to take accountability, to take responsibility of the shit that I've done. And actually say, hey, this is what I've done. This is how I'm owning up. This is how I want to change, to be able to show and to build that trust with my wife. Also, the big aspect coming into it of realizing it's not feelings. It's not this fantasy, this high, these warm, fuzzy feelings that make me feel so connected that sometimes I can engage with like love bombing or getting a new supply. Those kind of feelings dissipate. And when they dissipate, a narcissist is typically like, well, no more love here. And it's really hard for them to step back from that place to be like, wait a second, I can actually look at someone, not view them as all good, all bad, but actually be like, hey, I'm making a commitment, I'm making a choice to be with this person and to exemplify love. Hopefully that makes sense. I know there's a lot of stuff that we kind of touched on there, and a lot of that at the end is coming from my perspective as a self-aware narcissist. I'm not saying that if you're with a narcissist that you should stick around and hope that they're going to love you, okay? If you're not seeing honesty, vulnerability, and consistent change, leave. I'm never recommending somebody to stay in an abusive relationship. Once you understand, if you've been in that abusive relationship and you feel like everything just doesn't make sense, first understand you're not crazy, you're not alone, you're not hopeless. Please reach out for help.